But we had a lot of stuff today, Kim. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Diddy's former assistant was forced up there.
Obama's face on a pill bottle? That's just one shocking detail from Diddy's ex-assistant's jaw-dropping testimony. From alleged bizarre drug habits to unsettling party demands, the courtroom revelations are piling up, and it's not looking good for the music mogul. What's really behind this bizarre claim? Stay tuned as we unpack every explosive allegation.
Trial against Sean Diddy Combs has moved into its 7th day of testimony. Today, the former personal assistant to Mr. Combs, David James, returned to the stand. Jurors also heard from the mother of singer Cassie Ventura, Combs' ex-girlfriend. He has pleaded not guilty to all of those charges. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Melas is outside of the courthouse in New York City. Chloe, walk us through what has happened in court so far today.
Yeah, so Ellison, you talked about David James. He is somebody who worked for 2 years for Combs as a personal assistant, and he really pulled back the curtain on what it's like to work for someone like Combs. He said that sometimes his days would be 20 hours at a time, and he would work 21 days in succession with no breaks. And he talked about how he knew that he was signing up for a tough job, but he also talked about how Combs allegedly had him...
Think about that, man. Working 20-hour days, 21 days straight with no break. Think about the stuff he has heard and seen. Think about all this is what I was talking about. This is what I've been waiting for. Because, you know, I know a lot of people are quiet because they probably were going to testify. And then there's people who are quiet because, you know, they're trying not to get on Diddy's bad side, allegedly. But this right here, I said bodyguards and drivers, and of course, personal assistants. These are the people who know the most, seen the most. Wow, that's, boy.
So have him get prescriptions under his own name.
Okay, so, sorry. I don't know if I can mention all the stuff he would get for Diddy, you know, stuff for Diddy to put in his body. But they were just saying that that's what he was doing. He was the one that was getting this stuff and saying that, you know, now they're getting into the racketeering and all that. Because people were like talking about Cassie saying all of this, yes, is DV, but this is not what he's on trial for. And hey, but wait, there's more. Now we starting to get into it. They said they were just laying the platform down.
So let's break this down. Why on earth would a pill bottle have Barack Obama's face on it? That's the question everyone's been asking since David James, Diddy's former assistant, took the stand. According to James, during his time working for the music icon, Diddy never left home without his collection of pill bottles, but one stood out among the rest, a bottle allegedly featuring the smiling image of the 44th President of the United States. This claim had the courtroom buzzing, and honestly, it's not hard to see why. What kind of pills would have Obama's face on them? Were they prescription drugs, something illicit, or just an odd collector's item? So far, no one seems to have a clear answer. But James's vivid testimony makes it hard to brush off as just a throwaway comment. James described the pill bottles as an oddly consistent part of Diddy's day-to-day activities. He claimed they weren't hidden away in a drawer or discreetly tucked into a bag. These bottles were carried openly, like any other personal item. And that specific image of Obama's face? James didn't hold back when emphasizing how bizarre and out of place it seemed. No brands were mentioned, no types of pills identified, just this strange, almost surreal detail. The moment he said it, courtroom reactions reportedly ranged from disbelief to stifled laughter. One observer allegedly shook their head in confusion, whispering to the person next to them, "Is he serious?" This isn't just another outrageous claim thrown into the legal mix. It adds a layer of peculiarity to the broader portrait being painted of Diddy's life behind closed doors. Pills, after all, can carry heavy connotations, whether they hint at medical needs, recreational use, or even irresponsible behavior. But why Obama's face specifically? Was it some nod to celebrity culture? A hidden message? Or could it just have been a novelty item blown out of proportion? James didn't elaborate on whether it was just one bottle or part of a pattern. But the specificity of the detail left everyone scratching their heads. Legal experts have chimed in, noting that while such claims might seem trivial or even funny on the surface, they can help jurors form a psychological portrait of a defendant. One analyst suggested that the bottle paints a picture of someone unpredictable with unusual habits that only add to the allegations of a chaotic, unconventional environment. But here's the kicker. At this point, there's no physical evidence to back up James's statement about the mysterious bottle. Without something concrete, like photos or receipts, this claim lives entirely in the realm of hearsay. Will the defense argue that it's just a wild exaggeration, or will they stay quiet and hope people move on to more serious parts of the testimony? The Obama pill detail has already gone viral outside the courtroom. Social media posts, memes, and even late-night comedians have jumped on the story. And while Diddy has stayed tight-lipped in court, James's description has struck a nerve with the public. Whether it's true or not, it's yet another strange element in an escalating list of accusations, and it keeps people glued to every development. But things don't end here. This testimony only gets more outrageous, because beyond pill bottles, there's now talk of freak-off parties, and what James revealed about Diddy's demands might actually be even harder to believe.
But we had a lot of stuff today, Kim. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Diddy's former assistant was forced up there. We had Cassie's mom take the stand. The Punisher stepped up and got up in there. And then we had a HSI agent from National Security, Homeland Special Agent, who was responsible for the planning. And then we had a tease at the end, a big name coming tomorrow, it sounds like. Whoo! All right, we're going to get through it all,
Potentially.
Kim.
We're going to get to it all.
It looks that way. What was your overall takeaway today on day 7?
Overall takeaway, I was surprised. First of all, I will say David James, the assistant, is hilarious. I think everybody was there were multiple notes of people laughing in the courtroom, which technically you shouldn't be doing, but I couldn't help myself either. I had moments where I was just laughing my head off at just some of the answers that he was giving. Of course, his cross-examination was done by Costco lawyer, as we lovingly call him, Mark Agnifilo, because of his baby oil jokes, or not jokes, but defense that was absolutely ridiculous. After that, we had Cassie's mom. Cassie's mom was not cross-examined. Diddy's team wouldn't do it, which I thought spoke volumes, and definitely learned something new of what she had to go through today. Then we had the Punisher, who was a worker that engaged in some of the FOs, kind of contradicted himself more than once. Not good. And then we moved into the HSI agent, and this was the agent who was in charge of organizing the Miami raid, and he had kind of just gotten started when the day ended. So lots to go through.
What exactly is a freak-off party? That's the term David James used while testifying about his alleged experiences working for Diddy. According to James, these weren't your typical celebrity house parties. They were exclusive, chaotic, and reportedly filled with moments that left him feeling deeply uncomfortable. And here's the thing, he wasn't just there to observe the madness. James claimed he was forced to assist with these events, handling tasks that he described as humiliating and intrusive. In his testimony, James painted a picture of an environment where excess reigned supreme. These parties allegedly involved A-list guests, unpredictable demands, and an atmosphere that blurred the lines between personal and professional boundaries. James claimed he was made to act as more than just an assistant. His role included managing party logistics, covering for unexpected situations, and even allegedly handling deeply personal requests from Diddy himself. He described moments where the pressure to keep everything running smoothly felt unbearable, especially as the events became more outrageous as the night wore on. One of the more disturbing allegations James revealed involved being instructed to monitor intimate interactions between guests to ensure that everything stayed under control. He alleged that this often involved crossing boundaries that went far beyond what anyone would consider a typical job description. James recounted what he called a toxic mixture of demands that felt both personal and exploitative, leaving him in an awkward and demeaning position. He claimed that in these moments it felt impossible to say no to Diddy, as any resistance reportedly led to retaliation, whether that meant being yelled at, humiliated, or threatened. What made these allegations even more damning was James's emotional testimony about the impact these experiences had on him. He described feeling trapped, unable to leave the job due to fear of repercussions. He claimed the constant pressure to meet Diddy's increasingly bizarre demands during these parties took a significant toll on his mental health. He described each event as a cycle of chaos, where at any given moment something could go horribly wrong, and it would always fall on him to fix it. The courtroom-shaking moment came when James shared one unforgettable memory from a freak-off party. He told the court about an incident where he reportedly had to escort a belligerent guest out, and was later blamed by Diddy for the guest's behavior. James claimed the public humiliation that followed was so intense, it solidified how expendable he felt in the eyes of his employer. The weight of that memory, paired with his other claims, added another layer of depth to his portrayal of working under Diddy's rule. If the pill bottles were strange, these party allegations take things to another level. They don't just reveal a toxic work environment, they suggest a level of control and excess that feels hard to comprehend, but it doesn't stop with parties. James also alleged something darker, Diddy's handling of firearms. And what James said about that would send shivers through the courtroom.
Remember, the government says that Combs was running his businesses and carrying out illegal activity and using assistants, security guards, and other individuals that work for him to carry out that illegal activity. So he's one of many individuals that previously worked for Combs that we're going to be hearing from. And like you said, who else did we hear from today? We finally heard from Cassie Ventura's mother. It was very brief on the stand, but she talked about taking photos of her daughter in 2011 when she came home to Connecticut for the Christmas holidays, and that she was shocked to see her daughter's body, that she hadn't been aware that her daughter's relationship with Combs had been violent at this point, and that she took those photos to memorialize them. And thankfully for her, she did, because they showed those in court today to the jurors.
Okay, again, just in case I had to trim out that Cassie's mother was talking about the photos she took revealing all the DV that went on with Diddy. She wanted to, take a photo and keep that for herself, as far as, like a day like this come, and she has those photos. As I said before, Cassie told the mother, and the mother knew about that stuff. She just didn't know about the freak-off. But again, I'm just saying this because it might have been chopped out in the video.
Chloe, explain for us how the prosecution plans to use these witnesses to build their case as it relates to the specific charges Diddy is facing here.
So remember, there are 5 charges, like I said, racketeering, conspiracy. So that's where you get the individuals that worked for Combs, whether it was security, personal assistants, chief of staff. We're going to be hearing from a chef who once worked for Combs. So you have people like Cassie Ventura, you have her mother, you have individuals talking about coercion, force, feeling that there was so much violence in the relationship for some of these women that they couldn't leave, so therefore they were forced to participate in these freak-offs.
Right.
In charge. And remember, if convicted on all, he faces up to life in prison.
All right. NBC's Chloe Malas, thank you.
Firearms. That's where the testimony turned from bizarre to downright unsettling. According to David James, Diddy's ex-assistant, it wasn't unusual to see firearms present in the mogul's home or at certain events. James described these moments as more than uncomfortable. They felt dangerous. One specific example involved what he claimed was a loaded weapon being displayed casually during a private gathering. It wasn't locked away or kept discreetly. It was right there, visible to anyone who happened to be in the room. James didn't mince words about how unsafe he felt in those situations. He spoke about a particular incident where the tension in the room was so thick, he worried something could go wrong at any moment. He didn't elaborate on whether threats were made directly at him, but he made it clear that the presence of firearms, combined with the high-pressure environment Diddy allegedly created, made him constantly fearful. For James, these weapons seemed like symbols of power, a way to both intimidate and control. The potential legal ramifications of these claims could be huge. Depending on any supporting evidence, these allegations could open the door to further investigations into whether firearms were stored or used unlawfully. One legal commentator pointed out that in cases involving high-profile celebrities, claims like these often raise questions about safety and liability, especially if weapons were readily accessible during parties or work-related events. Even without any reported misuse, just the implication of carelessness could have significant consequences, particularly when combined with other troubling accusations. James claimed that this was part of a broader pattern in Diddy's behavior. The toxic environment he described wasn't just about shouting matches or impossible demands. It had an undercurrent of unpredictability, where authority and fear were closely intertwined. He painted a picture of Diddy as someone who thrived on control, whether it was through his commanding personality or, as James alleged, through the implicit threat suggested by the presence of firearms. For the jury, and for everyone watching this case unfold, it added a darker layer to the already chaotic atmosphere described in previous testimony. The courtroom reportedly fell silent as James recounted his experiences with firearms. One observer described the shift in mood as palpable, a moment where even the more outrageous claims in the case suddenly took on a heavier, more ominous tone. And it wasn't lost on anyone that Diddy, who has faced other controversies in the past, has been tied to allegations involving weapons before, though nothing on record has ever escalated to criminal charges. What's most chilling about this testimony, though, is James's claim that he never felt entirely safe in his role. He said there were nights he'd leave work questioning if he'd made it through unscathed, physically and emotionally. And yet, despite the gravity of these allegations, no physical evidence or witnesses have been presented to back up James's account so far. For now, his words are all the court has to go on, leaving everyone to wonder just how much weight they hold. But this isn't the first time that missing evidence has raised questions in this case. Could the lack of hard proof turn the tide in Diddy's favor? Or is this just the beginning of more revelations to come?
Previously, though, we noticed that some of his family wasn't in the galley. Well, now it turns out again, right? Diddy's sister was there, but his mom and sons were once again not present. Second day in a row. Take that as you will. But David James, his former assistant, came back on the stand as Kim was sitting up. He seemed a little sassy, Kim.
Very.
He did say he didn't witness any violence between Diddy and Cassie. However, he did see a blog post alleging that Combs was physical with Cassie at a club. Diddy searched James's computer history. James had been taking Cassie food at the London hotel that week, but he never saw her. Staff always answered the door. He said
a little suspicious.
Yeah.
Right? There's like this report that something's wrong, and then he's delivering food to her at a hotel and doesn't see her for a whole week.
Without a doubt, suspicious. Yeah. He then also spoke about this Louis Vuitton bag regularly carrying $10K in cash, sometimes more. In the bag, there were 25 to 30 undisclosed pill bottles. These types you can see, along with Viagra and Tylenol, to increase manhood count and water pills. He later added this one and other E's to the bag and saw
Perky and
Combs.
X.
Yes, X. There you go. He saw Combs taking them. James said he was reimbursed by Bad Boy for the expenses such as medicine and snacks, but for certain supplies such as baby oil, Astroglide, and protection, he was told to be reimbursed by Combs' security staff, who would pay him in cash out of Combs' LV bag. Now, I think this is key, right? This is part of the racketeering, the business empire, how he was constructing where money was coming from, cash money being spent, etc. He testified that Diddy requested him to bring an iPad to the hotel room that they were staying in. When no one answered, he walked into the room to deliver the items, and he saw Cassie in a hotel bed with a man he did not know in the room.
I have to correct myself. I think that was a typo. It technically was an iPod, I believe. I believe we are before the time of the iPad being super popular. That was my mistake. But just to be, to
an
be
iPod, I remember
precise.
those before the phone and stuff. Yeah, we had to carry our music around in a separate device. Now it's all in one.
Right.
Well, now he saw this other man in a hotel with Cassie, and he said the man was well endowed. Let's go look at that exchange. I'm curious.
It was kind of one of these things, like it was Inner City Press said it, and we kept waiting to hear. We're like, how many of these other outlets are going to say he was well endowed? We didn't hear it, but yes,
with long hair and a large endowment,
and he scurried away.
Did you ask anything? I wasn't hired to ask about their personal affairs.
No.
I love it's the correct answer. Did you ever pick? They keep going. All right. Well, there'll be some more. I want to go through some of these more sassy responses. Diddy was in the shower. Cassie didn't move. James said he never asked them about it because he did not have conversations with them about their personal affairs. And that's what the job description was. He also claims he was subjected to multiple lie detector tests conducted by former FBI agent due to missing items. He found the experience intimidating and recounted incidents where Combs security searched his belongings after expensive items went missing. Additionally, James revealed that Combs kept footage of him dancing while under the influence at a Diddy party. If I recall this, he said, I'm just going to keep that for later.
Just in case he ever needed something to have on him, he then had it. And that's just unsettling. So it kind of just shows again that this idea of him having something on people seems to be a pattern. And in the grand scheme of things, David did not work for Diddy for an extremely long time. It was about a year and a bit. So I do find it interesting that clearly he was looking for opportunities and he got one and he took it. So kind of sucks. But again, this is also the New Year's Eve party that Cassie always really wanted to go to and apparently never got to because Kim Porter was there. So I understand it's like, okay, so the assistant gets to go, all these people get to go, but she doesn't. I get why it's frustrating.
Is there actual proof to back up these accusations, or are we looking at a case built entirely on words? That's the question ringing through this trial as people try to piece together the truth behind David James's explosive claims. So far, the courtroom has been filled with intrigue, but what's missing is something tangible: photos, documents, or even corroborating testimony. Right now, this is James's word versus Diddy's legacy, and the lack of evidence is starting to cast a shadow on the prosecution's case. James worked for Diddy for years, long enough to say he saw nearly everything behind closed doors. But why now? That's a question even casual observers are asking. Some critics speculate James may have ulterior motives, whether financial or personal. Others argue that spending so many years in a supposedly toxic work environment doesn't make sense if things were as bad as he claims. Still, James describes a dynamic of fear and control, suggesting he stayed because walking away wasn't an option, but whether the jury finds his reasons believable is another story entirely. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team isn't just sitting back. They've dismissed the allegations as baseless and seem focused on challenging James's credibility at every turn. According to insiders, Diddy's lawyers have pointed out inconsistencies in James's testimony, calling into question whether his claims hold water without evidence to back them up. They've also hinted that James's motivations might not be as pure as he wants people to think, implying there's more to this story than meets the eye. This isn't the first time a high-profile celebrity has faced shocking accusations without concrete evidence. In past cases, accusations alone have been enough to alter careers, but they don't always hold up in court. Take Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. The public sided with Depp, but it took mountains of evidence to sway the verdict in his favor. On the other hand, some cases fizzle out entirely due to lack of proof. Could this trial take a similar turn? One moment in the courtroom that had everyone watching came when a member of Diddy's defense team asked James directly if he had any physical evidence of the so-called Obama pills. His answer? A flat-out no. The defense pounced on this, making it clear they intend to paint James as an unreliable witness. It was a tense moment, with Diddy himself remaining surprisingly calm throughout, though his demeanor gave little away. Without solid proof, the stakes feel razor-sharp for both sides. For James, it's about credibility, about persuading the jury to believe his story. For Diddy, it's about preserving his reputation, his career, and his future. And this missing evidence, or lack thereof, could tip the scales dramatically. But even as the courtroom waits for more, the ripple effects of this trial are already creeping into Diddy's carefully crafted public image. What happens if the tide turns against him?
Today's cross-examination focusing heavily on Ventura's allegation that Combs raped her in 2018 after they had ended their relationship, which he denies. The defense showing text messages between the former couple the day after the alleged rape, including one in which Ventura sent a heart emoji to Combs. Combs' team also trying to poke holes in Ventura's timeline.
That is not the gotcha moment that defense attorneys think it is. I mean, at the end of the day, witnesses are not great on specific dates, particularly when they go back years ago.
The defense also pointing to a text exchange between Ventura and Combs from 2012, in which she wrote, "I don't want to freak off for the last time. I want it to be the first time for the rest of our lives." At times today, the defense appeared to struggle to maintain momentum, facing frequent objections by prosecutors and regularly stopping Ventura's questioning to whisper together. Combs appeared to be actively involved, passing his lawyers notes. In a striking exchange with Combs' lawyers, Ventura saying, despite it all, "I don't hate him. I have love for the past and what it was."
We also saw musician Dawn Richard take the stand. She said that she witnessed Combs be violent with Ventura over the course of their relationship. I just want to remind everyone that Combs denies all of the allegations against him. Back to you.
The allegations against Diddy have sparked a firestorm. And the big question now is, how will this affect his career and image? From pills with Barack Obama's face to wild party demands and now firearms, David James's testimony has painted a picture of chaos and control that's hard to ignore. These claims aren't just shocking, they directly challenge the carefully curated reputation Diddy has built over decades. Known as a savvy businessman, a mogul who redefined music and fashion, Diddy has long been a symbol of power and success, but will he be able to bounce back from these bombshell accusations? Reactions outside the courtroom have been fierce. Social media exploded over the testimony, turning some of the more bizarre details, like the pill bottles, into memes almost instantly. But it's not just about jokes or viral moments anymore. Public opinion appears divided. Many fans are distancing themselves, taking James's side and questioning how much they really knew about the man behind the brand. Meanwhile, others remain staunchly loyal, accusing James of being opportunistic. This split could mark a major turning point in how Diddy is perceived, especially by younger generations who've come to know him less as an artist and more as a cultural icon. Then there's the business angle, which is equally, if not more critical to Diddy's survival. With ventures in music, alcohol, fashion, and media, his portfolio spans industries that don't take kindly to controversy of this magnitude. Just look at Kanye West's partnerships unraveling after his scandals. It doesn't take much for big-name brands to jump ship when public scrutiny heats up, and while no companies have cut ties with Diddy yet, the trial isn't over. Endorsements could come under threat if more damaging claims surface or if public sentiment sours even further. One PR expert suggested that even the perception of instability could make high-profile backers nervous, urging them to treat Diddy as more of a risk than an asset. These kinds of scandals can also create long shadows, permanently altering how someone is remembered. Take Michael Jackson, for instance. Despite never being convicted of any crimes, allegations forever complicated his legacy, dividing opinions to this day. Diddy faces a similar challenge now. No matter how this trial ends, the allegations may follow him for years, coloring his achievements with controversy and doubt. A particularly telling moment during the trial came when James detailed how Diddy allegedly berated him during a freak-off party gone wrong. Observers in the court noticed that Diddy, normally poised, gripped the edge of the table tightly throughout the testimony, his jaw set. For someone with such an iconic public image of swagger and confidence, it was a rare break in composure that didn't go unnoticed. Here's the thing, this trial is far from over. And if this pace keeps up, it's not out of the question for more allegations to come to light. Will the growing pile of claims continue to erode Diddy's empire, or will his decades-long legacy find a way to withstand the pressure? What's certain is that every revelation chips away at the stronghold he's built, leaving the world to wonder, is this truly the real Diddy?
I'm glad she said what she said, because that's what I've been talking about, and I was trying to get people to understand. I don't know if people are trolling or not, man, but this is what I'm talking about when you are putting fear into people's heart. Of course, they're going to do whatever you say. So on the outside, it may look consensual, but it's not. These people, these women, and probably some guys too, basically scared for their lives. So again, his team is trying to say consensual when they're saying, no, this is how you get into this stuff, is putting the fear in their heart. They can't leave because they scared what's going to happen. So now they're going to do whatever he's asking, you know, to stay alive, to keep their careers, whatever the case may be. Because like I said, these people were promised things, and then I can take it away from you just like that. You know, I was looking at a comment here. Someone said, trying to figure out why a billionaire would want 20K chump change from the mom, and why would he give it back? Wait, what? 20K? He gave it back because he realized it was a criminal offense. What is that about? Hold on. 20K? I'm trying to look that up. See what this is about. Cassie mother says Sean Diddy Combs demanded $20,000 because her daughter was seeing someone else. Oh, that's what the David James testified? Wait, David James, former assistant Sean Diddy Combs testified. No. Wait, hold on. No, they said I'm sorry, it was just a picture of the David James dude. Okay, hold on. An angry Sean Diddy Combs demanded $20,000 from Cassandra, Cassie Ventura's mother, and threatened to release explicit tapes of his longtime girlfriend after learning she was dating someone else. The mother testified Tuesday at the hip-hop mogul's trial. Regina Ventura says she felt physically sick when her daughter sent her an email in late 2011 to say Combs threatened to release videos of her and send someone to hurt her and the man she was seeing, the rapper Kid Cudi. Wow. I didn't understand a lot of it. The tapes threw me off, Ventura told Manhattan Federal Court. Ventura of New London, Connecticut, said she then received a demand from Combs for $20,000. He was angry that he spent money on her and she went with another person, she said. Cudi, whose real name is Scott Muscudi, I can't pronounce that, sorry. Oh, snap. He's going to testify Thursday, Kid Cudi? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Diddy's legacy is at a crossroads. For years, he's been celebrated as a cultural icon, shaping music, fashion, and business. But these allegations, if they stick, could rewrite that narrative entirely. The claims of chaos, control, and danger behind the scenes aren't just salacious. They force fans and the industry to reconsider the man behind the empire. Could this trial become the defining moment that overshadows his achievements? Or is this a temporary scandal that will fade with time? Let us know your take in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates as this courtroom drama unfolds.